Good evening, lovely ladies and listeners, and we're back. We've been on quite the hiatus. That's probably a misjudgment. We've been away for a very long time. But as usual, we're joined by a lovely panel of ladies. As I was just telling them in the briefing, because it's been so long, it's going to be a cozy stream where we're going, what we're doing, chill, whatever the hell you like. So, of course, we're joined by our lovely Poe to start off with. How are you? It's been a while.
Hi, yeah, thanks for starting all this back up, and it feels very relaxing to just sit back and let someone else handle.
Someone else do the panicking in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, I'm just here to work my mouth off and probably be there in the chat responding to comments there too. So yeah, thanks for setting this up, and I love the intro and the thumbnail and everything.
I thought it's not quite a rebrand, but we're going for coziness and trying to keep it relaxed as much as possible. But we are a group of Wamen, so it's never relaxed. We know this for a fact. It's always chaos behind the scenes before we start. Shield Maiden, welcome back. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's good to be back. And yeah, I definitely think you've achieved cozy with the intro.
I'm glad you think so. I'm surprised it didn't take me as long as I thought it was going to. I was panicking about making that intro for ages. I was like, let's just make it pretty chilled, relaxed, same photos as we've always had at the beginning of Wamen Hour. I will apologise now. I've just said to the ladies, I've got a stinking cold. So if I disappear or lose breath halfway through, it's because I'm just going off and trying to breathe. Where are we going with Wamen Hour? Well, we've started again, obviously. We forgot what number we were on, so we're just starting with 101 because that seems a pretty solid number just to go with. Because yeah, I lost track. We got to 100, and I have no idea where we went after that. To be honest, we've still got a lovely group of ladies in the background. We've all stayed in touch, which is brilliant. It's lovely to see. I don't know if you ladies agree with me, but it's lovely to see how much each of us has been doing whilst we've not been on the stream, because normally we'd sort of keep up with each other and well, we have been keeping up with each other, just not in front of loads of people. So do you guys want to, I know Poe does, I can see her itching to go. Do you want to shill anything and everything? What have you guys been up to? If you want to share anything, Poe, I know you're concentrating on your videos. Shield Maiden, I know you might want to shill your magazine. So either or, just fire away. You have time to fill. Shill everything. What have we been doing whilst we've been away?
I want to hear about the Corn Crake magazine. How's that been doing? Has it been a lot of work?
Well, yes, it is a lot of work, but I also enjoy it. It's immensely fun trawling the internet for short stories and really nice art, because I know it's supposed to be a literature magazine, but I just really like art, and I think good pictures go well with the stories. So I've been, I first started out thinking it was all about stories, but now I've spent just as much time finding good artists as well. But yeah, I thought
it was called corn cake for the longest time. Like I kind of, I don't know if I've got dyslexia or something, but corn cake is something I've heard of. A corn crake is a bird I've never heard of, so I didn't know that it was a bird. It was named after a bird until you posted that little video about the corn crake bird. But I had quite a different mental image of a kind of a simple, wholesome, earthy spirit of a really simple, starchy food. Being this is the spirit of this magazine, but I had it completely wrong.
Speaking with her stomach right there.
Yeah, I've heard it a few times that miss thinking it's a corn cake. But basically, it's a bird that used to be more common in England as well, but modern farming practices have meant it's been pushed out, so it mostly lives in Scotland and stuff. Plus, it's migratory as well, so it's not even here all year round. So I'm guessing a lot of people haven't really heard of it. But yeah, with the whole magazine,
it's reminiscent of the Mallard, which is another it's a right-wing student magazine. So it's we've got a whole bird genealogy of different magazines you can read.
We just need a few more, and then we can have all of the birds represented.
I'll start the Heron. That'll be
Yeah.
our engineering magazine.
Isn't the heron already a thing?
I don't know.
I feel like it is. Or am I thinking of the Herald? Is my brain not working that much? I'm thinking of the Herald.
I'll start the Corn Cake.
Oh dear. That shows how much I know.
It's literature magazine.
Am I right in saying Shield Maiden as well? You're using a
It's
lot
a bit
of...
horrifying because...
No, go on. I'll ask my question in a minute.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna.
No, I was just gonna say, like,
no, there's definitely a time difference. There's a lag going on somewhere.
There's a bit of a lag.
There is a lag. So before that lag jumps back in, I will get my question in. I was gonna say, for those who might not know the Corn Crake magazine, all the links I have put under the video. So those of you who want to have a look at it, go and subscribe. Go and have a look. But also, you are using people like creatives is probably the correct word for it. So you've got some, I want to say local artists, but they're not really local. They're local to our sphere, aren't they? It's probably the the best way of saying it. So you're using
sympathetic artists.
There's sort of collaboration going on as well.
Yeah, so the submissions are open. In the instructions how to do that's on the website. So I'm open to anyone suggesting anything really. Like there's a few limitations there, but I want to have variety in the magazine. So, poems of different lengths and different topics, different genres. There's
what's
a few
your
limitations,
editorial
really.
policy on what do you call it, sort of crude or R-rated, violence or sexual content? Have you been like very like censorious and authoritarian on what it must be wholesome?
I've been a bit church lady. Like there's good art out there, but if it's got nudity in it, I'm personally fine with that, but I don't put it in the magazine. And then I don't want overly graphic scenes described in the story or overly foul language. Just keeping it a little bit tame.
Family friendly.
Yeah.
just like Wamen Hour.
Just like Wamen Hour.
We tried.
we tried. There were definitely some streams that were not family friendly. Let's be fair.
When I'm watching YouTube with my kids now, since my eldest daughter learned how to talk, I do have to be really careful about what I watch. Like I never cared about swearing. I wouldn't even notice swearing. I just like went right past my radar. But now when she's in the room, she'll be watching stuff that's way above her understanding, but she understands all the words. So I really have had to listen to things with swearing in it less, even if what they're talking about is extremely adult. Because it's so far above her understanding, it doesn't matter what the content of the speech is, as long as it doesn't have swear words in it, which is kind of interesting.
Pick up on the words, and yeah. That's probably the worst thing is they will listen to everything. And they'll only say exactly what you don't want them to say.
Basically, yeah.
So, Poe, what have you been doing? So you've been concentrating on your own channel, which is fantastic. You have been smashing those videos out constantly.
Before I had kids, I could get a video out every week. And it would be, I'd be able to write, not a script, but a kind of outline. I'd film it, and then I'd be like responding to comments throughout the week and coming up with something else. And that was when my channel was really, what do you call it? It was really doing the numbers. I really wanted to get back to one a week, at least for a short period, but it's really difficult to find time to just sit down and film the videos. Is the hardest part. I'm just exhausted by the time my kids go to bed. And you really need a lot of energy to like sit here and form an eloquent sentence. So that's been a struggle, but I'd like to make more videos, and I'd like to sort of be really thoughtful about what I say rather than on stream where I would just sort of go off half-cocked and couldn't quite find the right words at the exact moment. It has been nice to be able to properly consider what I'm saying, and I just sit down for about there's so many moments when I'm making a video where I'll just sit and stare at the wall for about 20 seconds so that it then gets edited out, because I'm just trying to find exactly the right word. But I think the product at the end is something that I really missed doing. Having something that's kind of complete, and it's complete thought from start to finish, without any interruptions or anything. So that has been good. I'm one of the first videos I did when I started making videos again was my interview with Rob Henderson, which I would really recommend people go and watch, because I felt really privileged to I got a pre-release copy of his book, and that book ended up being doing very well. So I was really lucky to get to talk to him, mostly just because he lives kind of near me, like within a short car ride. So I think he met my husband and I at a conference, and we sort of exchanged details, and I managed to get an interview with him to talk about his book, and it was a great book and a great conversation, but somehow just didn't attract the views just because I hadn't made videos in so long. Mm-hmm. So if anyone hasn't seen me talking to Rob Henderson, I would suggest going to see that.
Brilliant. I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize as well, it does take a lot of work to do this, as you know, Poe. There's a lot of background work that goes on. That leads us on quite nicely, actually, to where Women Hour is going in the future. So we used to do a stream every week. And as you know, Poe, it was a lot of work trying to get the Wamen together, trying to come up with topics to discuss, timings, days, etc., setting up the stream. It can get in the way of daily life. So the plan of action for now, and hopefully it will go swimmingly, is Wamen Hour will be streamed once a fortnight to start off with. So it's a bit more comfortable. There won't be a stream every week. It'll be once a fortnight, and it will be on this channel. So we're on a completely different channel again. So we started on Academic Agent's channel nearly 2 years ago now, if you can believe it. It's been quite a while. And then we hopped over to your channel, Poe, and now we are here on a brand new channel. But I will say thank you to those who have already subscribed. It shot up overnight, which was kind of strange to me because I'm not used to that attention. So it was quite nice seeing that a lot of our pre-Wamen Hour listeners have come over and carried on. So thank you for that. The next one will be on the 5th. For those who want to write that in their diaries now, I'm giving you plenty of warning. We've already got some topics.
Clear your schedule.
I've got a schedule laid out of each week, so I will try and give people plenty of notice, because obviously it will be fortnightly. So with all our lives being very busy as they are at the moment, trying to have a schedule is I'm pretty hot on that as much as I can be. We have got a lot of topics already lined up, which for Wamen Hour is unheard of. We're so used to going, what are we going to talk about this week, and deciding it sort of 24 hours before. I'm not saying that's
I think
we'll see.
I used to cram topics into an episode because I guess that's just my nature of wanting to fill every minute with as many different topics as possible.
It's either we have millions of topics and only an hour to fill the time, or we've got one topic and we need to spread it out. It's never sort of smooth sailing, as it were. It never has been smooth sailing. We've always been a bit chaotic behind the scenes, but we like that. We like the chaos. So you guys have been super busy. That's really nice to see. I've been very busy as well, I have to admit. People might have noticed on my Twitter, we've started planning for the Steam Fair again this year, on the 2nd of June. I have to remember that off the top of my head there. Some people came last year. A lot of people came the year before. This one's probably going to be the biggest one we've had, purely because we've got, well, it feels like we've got a lot more stuff. I'm not sure we actually do. I think we're just utilizing the space a bit better. Which is always interesting. So those of you who don't know my other half, Alex, that Steam guy on Twitter, he's the chairman of the Roby Trust in Tavistock in Devon, not the London Tavistock. It is the one in Devon, just to make that as clear as possible. And we host a Steam Fair every year. Planning started for that sort of January. So that's all going ahead and happening. So that's happening in the background. We're also on a committee to build allotments in the village, which has been absolute chaos. If anyone has seen Clarkson's farm, where he's battling with the council, it's a bit like that at the minute. If you do it for the community, okay, we're doing it for the community. Oh, but you can't do that for the community, but you're doing it for the community, and it is back and forth and jumping through hoops and a lot more paperwork than you think is involved in just setting up a field for allotments for a village, which is fun but also chaotic. And some idiot named me decided to be secretary, so I've got a lot of paperwork and a lot of emails to do. Oh no, I don't get paid for any of it, which is all fun. And obviously wedding planning, which will be one of our topics for a Women's Hour stream. But you're super excited about that. You're like, yes, finally. Because obviously we've got a lot of women who are married in the group, some who are engaged, myself included. I'm in the depths of it at the moment of the planning, so I'm trying to time the stream correctly where I've actually got a brain to work with to actually talk about it. It's been carnage. I mean, how do you guys feel about the way things are going in terms of the streams? How's fortnightly for you instead of weekly? Is that a bit more relaxed?
I think, when I was running the show, I'm really curious to see where you'll take it, but I always wanted to keep things really part of the reason why we only did, we didn't always have a topic until like the day before is because it was, it always felt more exciting to give like a hot take on the topic of now, like like the internet is abuzz with, like right now, that's the thing that we should talk about it, or something from that week. So the idea of having one every 2 weeks does seem a lot more chill, and I wonder whether it's going to result in a more kind of deep conversation about things that we've really had a long time to think about, and bring, we'll bring like more prepared positions to discuss, rather than just going off half-cocked about whatever the hot topic of the moment is. And it actually might result in streams that are more easy to listen to sort of after the fact, that aren't just listen to it today or it's gone and there's one another next week. It's like, something that might actually have lasting power.
Not like an argument on whether Kate Middleton has died or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if anybody has heard the news of that. Very sad news, but she seems to be coping well. So sending love to the family. But I think the whole reason I instantly went, we'll do it fortnightly to start off with, is obviously because if anyone hasn't noticed, Poe, you're taking a step back from Wamen Hour. You are no longer the head Wamen, which kind of scares me, because I'm like, no, you have to be there for the first one. I'm not doing the first one without Poe.
What about Deputy Wamen?
Deputy Wamen, yeah. We've basically switched places now, which has been quite interesting.
If you ask me nicely, I might take over Wamen Hour while you're on your honeymoon or preparing for your wedding or whatever. I might take over like the odd one.
Okay, that's fair.
It has been a big relief.
I'll take note of that. If anyone's listening, you heard Poe say it here. She will take over when I need to, when I'm not here. I think the whole reason of doing it fortnightly was so we can have a bit more time to plan on the topics. And I have noticed we all seem to be a lot busier these days since Wamen Hour sort of petered out itself, because we kind of all just got very, very busy and it got more difficult to keep going. So I'm hoping giving a bit more of a time frame will kind of allow us all to keep in contact, get together and talk to sorry, I'm reading comments at the same time. It's quite funny.
Look at me.
Terrible. I've lost my train of thought now. That's not good, is it? Giving us a bit more of a chance to be able to either read up on those topics maybe, or have a bit more of opinion, and not sort of yabber on as we do on chaotic live streams like this one, where we're just like, let's just get together and have a chat. We're back. Let's have a nice cozy chat, see what we've been doing, and let it know that we're back, and it will be a lot more structured after this. This is very much a chilled chat stream, I think, compared to what we've done in the past and what will be coming in the future.
If I could be bold enough to suggest a on-the-fly topic,
you may.
I'll
add it to the list, though.
Well, no. I mean, for now, like hearing about you being the secretary of the committee, and all the stuff that you do in your village with the Roby Trust, and I imagine a lot of other things you get involved with. I think it's what I was going to say is that it's always been a slight contradiction with Wamen Hour that we're getting on like a live stream with people that we met on Twitter to tell people to like go outside and do more productive things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we took our own advice and started doing more things. And then because of that, we can no longer get on here and tell other people to do
it. In a way, I agree with half of that. Only because when I sort of came into the group / the sphere, I was not involved with Twitter or YouTube at all. So I remember meeting you, Po, at the first Witten event, actually. It was the first time I think we ever met, and we kind of just hit it off, and we've been talking ever since, and Wamen Hour was born. With AA's influence, I have to admit. But I mean, it's kind of weird. I've definitely met all of you, Shield Maiden. We met last event. It was the last event, wasn't it? Yeah. So we've only met the once in person. Po, we've met a few times. Obviously, I've met Amy and Cal's both a few times as well, and Anna, of course. But there's still some of the women in the group that I've not met in person, but we do constantly talk, and we do constantly try and arrange a women's get together, and it never really happens because we all live up and down the country and all over the place as well, which is something to definitely remember. But yeah, I mean, I kind of had that strong position of get off the internet and go out and do things before I was involved with the internet because I was already doing it. So in some ways I've kind of done the opposite. Even though I would say I'm now definitely more involved in the community life, I suppose, than I was previously. I already had my toe in the water with that one anyway, with the Roby Trust. We've been doing that for a very long time now. But I mean, in terms of doing more, I've definitely done more, but I would say that gives me an even stronger stance to tell other people to go out and get away from computers, because I'm kind of using this platform to tell people about that, to tell people what I've been doing and how I've done it, which actually a lot of people have been asking me what else I'm going to put on my channel, because they're just, is it just going to be Wamen Hour on your channel? And I did think about it for a while. I was like, it would just be Wamen Hour. But thinking on it, I'm like, actually, I could use this for good. I could explain to people how to get out into the community, how to get involved, because I know, from personal experience, it is quite difficult to get out and get started. It's not just a case of you end up on a committee board and set up allotments in your village. You don't just start off doing that. You have to be a part of the community first. You have to be involved in certain groups first. You have to get out there. You have to start from the bottom and work your way up. And it's taken us sort of 2 years to get to that point in this village. But I mean, with the Roby Trust, that's actually back in a town where I grew up originally. So that's back in a different county completely. So we've got our toes in two separate rivers down here. We're in two counties. But
I admit it's kind of the opposite where we are. Within a few years of moving to the village and then getting sort of slightly involved with the church and with the local like nursery, people were just like desperate for people to join the committees. Like a lot of this stuff is a lot of like charities and volunteer stuff. It's all literally run by committee, and they, in order for the committee to be valid and for the charity to run, they need a minimum number of people and they need a minimum number of like roles to be filled. and nobody wants to do it, basically. And the fact that I was, I guess, under the age of 40 as well, meant that I ended up getting invited to help out with all this stuff. And as much as I love doing Wamen Hour on my channel, it is very fulfilling to be part of an actual community of people who actually live near me, regardless of their political opinions and what they who they vote for.
Absolutely.
I think it is important to get involved with an actual physical community when a lot of them are so desperate for help.
Oh, definitely. I mean, actually, you saying, apart from their political views, that's a very strong point, actually, because not once have I had any discussions with the Roby Trust, and there's a lot of us over at the, well, I say there's a lot of us, there could be a lot more. So if anyone wants to volunteer over at the Roby Trust and with the committee board in the village, not once have we discussed politics or anything around that. It is purely just been about the local area and what we're doing in order to preserve it and move forward, grow, etc. That's the only thing we are interested in. We're not interested in what's going on up there. We're interested in ground level, where we live. It's very much base level. And actually, a lot of the people that I work with aren't actually aware that I do this. I've told some, but they're just like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool. But they don't, because they know it's quite a political sphere that we are sort of involved in. But in terms of Wamen Hour, I mean, we know we purposefully keep it pretty low on the political side for obvious reasons. We talk about everything but politics to try and bring it down to that base level. And I think that's our main point. That's what we like doing, and people obviously like listening to it. We don't talk about what everyone else is talking about constantly. We go to the nitty-gritty, what's happening here and now in terms of lifestyle, in our base level, not what's happening up in London, and it's what's happening at home that actually matters, because that's where you're going to make a difference the most. So being able to use these sorts of platforms to basically promote that is quite a good way of doing it. Even though we do say, get off Twitter and stop doom scrolling. Yeah, still do that. Get off Twitter and stop doom scrolling. I mean, my Twitter is full of gardening and bakeries and birds. It's not really I get the odd tweet that's political and I don't tend to respond to them. So if your feed is full of things you don't want to see, that's entirely down to you. So
I think people like to be upset, though.
Sorry?
I think people like to be kind of outraged and upset in some way. Like it's kind of thrilling. I think that's what Twitter runs on. It's just like the internet rage machine.
There is the internet rage machine, but I would say to that, Poe, is take that rage and use it in a more productive way. I mean, at the moment, you'll both laugh at this, is my rage is being directed to me wanting a shed on my allotment plot. And that might sound ridiculous, but we are at the moment in conversations / battles with Cornwall Council, the Area of Natural Beauty, and Cornwall Farms, purely because they don't want sheds on allotment plots. So
it's the same thing with our allotments here. You can't have a permanent structure. It's got to be, what do you call it? Like it's got to be freestanding or something. Yes,
you can't have a permanent structure, which is fine. Sheds are not a permanent structure. Just don't concrete them into the ground. You can use railway sleepers. You can use gravel. There's all sorts you can use in and around the shed to keep it in place. That you use that anger elsewhere instead of doom scrolling and fighting with people on Twitter, and you're not going to get anywhere apart from people just having a go at you for a random opinion. Go and use that elsewhere. What are you actually angry about, and what can you actually do about it? This is turning into a counselling stream. What are you actually, annoyed about? If you're sat there doom scrolling on Twitter and saying, oh, politics has gone to this, and we're arguing about that, okay, but what's happening in your local community? And when I say that, the amount of backlash I get of, oh, but you live in the countryside. Yes, but community is also in towns. It's also in cities. It's also on your street. It's also in the local church. It's also the local school. There's community everywhere. You just have to go and find it.
Yeah, I've just sent a link to you in the private chat. I don't know if you want to open it, but I was talking about allotments at work recently, and someone said that they'd seen this like true crime kind of documentary about this murder of a lady. I think she ran the allotment. What Alex does, she ran the allotment committee for this local area, and she ended up getting murdered because this dispute about the allotment got so heated that this guy murdered her. It's pretty grisly. He murdered her on the allotment too.
Thanks for the vote of confidence there, Bo. I'm
saying,
it's surprisingly common. Yeah, there was another one further up country where a woman was found in her shed. But we're talking small scale allotments. We're not talking massive allotments. And of course, being on the board, it is my responsibility to keep an eye on the welfare of the plot holders. So hopefully it won't turn into a fjord and they all start throwing pitchforks at each other.
A feud.
But it's feud. Well, you raise up a fjord and then start a feud. But it's not just allotments. That sounds ridiculous, but I won't say the name of the village, but it's the Village Association, Allotment and Community Orchard Association. So we are actually setting up. So basically the allotment plots will be, well, as a normal allotment plot is, you sort of pay rent for whatever size plot you want. But within that community space, we've got plans we will be building a community orchard as well. So that also links, there's a lot sort of involved in this. So it's the reason we first started the allotments was purely down to, there was a flyer in the billboard in the village that asked if people were interested in allotments. And one of the reasons behind putting allotments into the village again was because there used to be allotments and they were built over. So one of the reasons for putting them back was so that they couldn't build a new housing estate on that field or the field next to it, which obviously we wanted to no more houses in this village. It's a very small village. We literally cannot take it. But then we're working with the local school. I mean, the local school is the Church of England primary school, and it's got a maximum of 36 children throughout the whole school. It's very small and it struggles. And they've got a little field behind where the allotment site is, where they keep chickens and learning to grow things. And we're actually teaming up, hopefully going to team up with them so they can use the orchard space and community barn, etc., so that we can sort of help each other out and hold community events. So it starts off as growing cabbages, which then grows into a whole allotment and then grows into a whole community site. So going back to when I was saying start small, we started small 18 months ago, saying that, okay, who's interested in allotments, and it's now grown into this. That's all you need to do. Even if you've just put a poster out, go and talk to your local church. Like, oh, are you interested in starting up a book club? Are you interested in going to help cut an old lady's lawn? Literally anything. And that is how you get started in community. It's not as difficult as people make it out to be.
I think also with that is that when you become a person that people find trustworthy and sort of moderately important, then you're, if it ever does get political, then your opinions are going to have a lot more weight now that you've got years of sort of morally upstanding behavior to back up. If it ever comes out that you have a controversial podcast online, people are going to stand by you if they think you're a good person because of the actual deeds that you've done.
Yeah, I mean, I think the running joke is that, well, I am the youngest one on the committee, and I'm the secretary, which is always quite fun. And Alex is the chairman, and I think we are, bar maybe one other, we are the two youngest members on the board. So
isn't that against the rule? I've heard that some committees you're not allowed to have two members from the same household.
Yeah, so this was a little bit of controversy. So we did initially say, is that going to be a problem? And they said, well, if it is, then we'll just change someone's role, basically. We'll just put somebody else as chairman or someone else as secretary. But so far, there have been no problems, really. And I think it's because it is such a small community. If it was a
No one
larger
else wants to write the
community, it
minutes.
probably nobody wants to do the minutes. Nobody wants to do all the emails. That's quite literally it. Nobody wants to write letters constantly. That's nobody wants to go and deal with all the comments from boomers. That's I mean, if it was a bigger community, a bigger committee, that would be an issue. Take the Roby Trust. Alex is the chairman, and one of the other guys, my good friend, is the secretary. I'm just a member. I am just. There's a lot of us who are members, but we're volunteers and we do a lot behind the scenes. There is still a board in the Roby Trust. It's the same as any charity. You have to go through them in order to get anything done. But there is a running joke that I'm now sort of the mum of the group, because I am the only woman who is there playing with steam engines. But I mean, it's even down to we have with the Roby Trust, we've got apprentices and I was going to say kids. They are kids. They're all we've got 14, 15-year-olds doing work experience with us, and then they stay on as members. So we're teaching them heavy engineering, and then they want to stay, and then their parents want to get involved, and then it grows and grows and grows. And that's got to a point where even that's the weird divide. Is the allotment committee, we feel quite young. With the Roby Trust, we feel old, because now we're like, we need to get the next lot of interest in, because we need to keep them interested and keep them there. That's the most difficult bit, is getting people in who agree and are interested, and keeping them grounded. That's
Teenage boys love steam engines. That's what I'm hearing.
It seems to be that way. Yeah, it's an interesting one. But again, with a couple of the lads who came in, they were part of the ATC, the Air Training Corps, which they're based next door to the Roby Trust, which is the old squadron I used to be in. So I know their OC, I know their officer and commanding, and they came up to us. Was it last Steam Fair? Yeah, it was last year's Steam Fair, asking if one of her cadets could come and do work experience with us. And we figured it out, and he came on weekends. We did work experience with him. He then stayed and became a member, and he then brought a couple of his mates along, and they stayed. And it was a point where we were kind of like, okay, this isn't a boys' club. You can't just rock up and mess around and do what you like. It took a couple of weeks, but I will give them all their due. They've rocketed in confidence. They will now go off and do things. They're not scared to ask questions. There's projects now that we've got a threshing box in the trust. And for those who don't know what that is, it's basically a piece of old farm machinery that's run by a steam engine. Most of it is made of wood, and it's been sat there for God knows how many years. And it is the best I've ever seen it, because these lads have been working on it constantly and just cracking on and getting it done. And it's great to see. It really is. It's great to just walk into the trust and see so many things happening now, because there was times where, it was just sort of us old lot wandering in, and there'd be sort of a handful of us and trying to divvy up a million jobs between less than 10 of us. And now we can go in, there'll be a group on that job and a group on this job. And it's people like that you need to keep these sorts of things going. So again, community, getting them going, because not all of them are from the town either. They either get the bus in, or they get dropped off, or they drive in. I mean, we now live an hour and a half away from the trust, but we turn up every weekend. So it's you've got to keep going at these things. If no one ever said being a part of the community was easy, but starting off is easy. Just go and talk to someone. That's all it takes. Just go and talk to someone. It depends how high up you want to go. I'm not saying jump straight in and I'm going to be the chairman of a of a committee or chairman of a charity. But get involved in these sorts of things, because guaranteed, if you go to, you've probably seen this yourself, Poe and Shield Maiden. I don't know if you've witnessed it yourself, but if you go to any town or even city that's got a sort of community sort of billboard that are either outside the town hall or the church, it will have groups on there, like very random groups. Sometimes they're just, mum and baby groups, but sometimes they're church groups, sometimes they're village green groups. They could be anything. It's always worth just giving them a call, giving them an email, turning up one day and just having a chat. I mean, you'd be amazed how many people just turn up at the trust and just go, yeah, do you need a hand? I'm never going to say no to new volunteers, ever. You know, they'll come in and go, I'm quite interested, you know, what have you got about? We'll give them a bit of a tour, show them what we've been up to, what's happening, and they'll just get involved. It's really as simple as that. And we get people who are, you know, really scared to start off with. They don't want to speak. I mean, one of the lads who joined us, he barely spoke. The cadet, who still is a cadet, actually. I haven't quite poached him completely away from cadets. He barely spoke when he joined us. Didn't want to say anything, didn't want to ask any questions, and now can't get him to shut up. He's constantly talking, constantly asking questions. But it's great, you know, and that's what we need to hold on to. So yeah, use the platforms, and I don't just mean YouTube or Twitter. I mean, even, dare I say it, Facebook. There are a lot of Facebook groups out there that are actually, you know, used as groups.
Facebook is very local. That's why Facebook really excels, but because everyone's using their real name and their real photo.
Yeah.
And you know, it insidiously like picks up on your emailing lists and your phone contacts to get those people. And I think Facebook is like pretty much dying, but the one place that it's excelling is in local groups. So like I think like even basically the boomers know how to use Facebook, and like every like village and town will have their own groups of people going, my cat's gone missing, and what time does Tesco shut? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, we use it in the trust, and we've got a messenger on Facebook, but it takes 3 of us to answer all the messages on the Facebook Messenger because we get that many messages. But I mean, that's the nice thing of it, because if it is just a little message like, oh, are you guys open today? Can I pop up? You know, absolutely. Things like that. It's such an easy step to take. So I'll just put, the only people I know who still use Facebook are boomers.
Well, and us now, you know.
and us. The worst, honestly, the worst thing I've had to deal with is boomers trying to send emails. It's painful. So painful. Getting emails through where they've written the email in the subject box. So there's no actual email, it's just the emails in the subject, and then it just ends like in the middle of a word because they can't figure out as to why they can't keep typing. It's like, right.
I like it when they do reply all instead of reply, and they send it to like 60 people.
Yeah. So that's one of the fun bits of being secretary, is that I only send group emails to the board. So all the others I have to send individually. So I then get millions of emails constantly coming through. So trying to keep track of those is quite interesting. But yeah, getting boomers to use emails. Some of them still haven't even replied. And I'm like, right, I'm going to have to go really old fashioned here and write them a letter and then go and post it through their door. I mean, that's how far back we're going here.
I love it when you ever get one of the boomers asking you if the email address has uppercase letters. Like, is that with a capital T or whatever?
I have to admit,
it's like understandable question. Like, it makes so much sense, and yet it's just completely...
I still automatically, when I'm telling people my email, I'll go, it's all lowercase. I will automatically say it's all lowercase because it's got my name in it. So and my name's an interesting one anyway. So apart from me having to spell it out every time, like, it's all lowercase. It's all lowercase. Or I just write it down for them and then just hope it finds its way to me. And 9 times out of 10 it does. Most of them, it just disappears into space and I never see it.
Yeah, no, I do like it when they actually I really appreciate that about boomers. Like, if they when they're like self-confessed, like, I don't understand the technology, and they'll just turn up at your door. Yeah. Instead of phoning you, instead of emailing you, they'll just go like, knock, 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 hello. Like, I have something to tell you, so I came to your house. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit chaotic, to be honest. I mean, I've had it here a few times where, sorry if I keep looking down at my phone, my boss and very good friend is imminently going into labour. So I'm
you're gonna find out about that, yeah.
There's typical Wamen hour gossip right here is yes. she may be going into labour. So I've got my phone on stand. It's literally sat right here. I've got it on standby just in case I get a message. I have had that, and it was a woman who wanted to buy one of my photography pieces off me, and she didn't have her phone on her when she met me down in one of the local markets, and she didn't have her phone on her. And she said, "Can you write down your email?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll write down. Just let me know when you're coming up," because I didn't have the sized print that she wanted at the market, but I had it at home, and she lived in the village. So I said, "Oh, I don't mind you bringing it round or meeting at the next market or whatever." So she said, "Oh, whereabouts are you?" So I told her where the house was, which was my biggest mistake, because the next day she appeared on my doorstep, money in hand, ready to go, and I was not prepared for that at all. I was like, "Where did you come from? Like, you have my email, I have your phone number." I was going to phone her that morning to discuss, and I just thought, wow, okay. And I was like, I'm not safe. I'm not safe from boomers. They are everywhere around here. They just turn up on the doorstep, even if I don't know them. But I will give them credit in terms of their ability to be undeniably stubborn, in terms of if they've got an idea and they want to stick to it, they are going to stick to it. And they will not listen to anyone else's opinion. And that is what we're having to battle with constantly. That is the biggest community issue at the moment, is getting past the boomers and trying to make them understand that I'm not a young yobbo, and you I won't do anything to destroy your village. Yeah, that's the worst bit, I have to admit. Shield Maiden, you've been very... I just see you sort of sit there nodding occasionally. Do you have anything to add on the community or the boomers?
Well, it's because I'm obviously a foreigner. Like, all your allotments is like unusual to me. But it does seem you have a lot of regulations when you try to do everything. Like, I suppose it's probably a bit like that in Australia. But here you can't even put up a little shed or something. That's kind of a lot.
Yeah. It depends where you are. I mean, we live in such a lovely area that the AONB, the Area of Natural Beauty, do hold a lot of rules behind what you can and can't do. I mean, even down to, when we moved in, I noticed there was a washing line out the front of the house that hasn't been used in years, because years ago that rule was changed so that you can't hang the washing out the front of your house anymore. It has to be out of eyesight if possible. So we've now got a washing line out the back of the house. Yeah, it's mad. But to be fair, I don't mind that rule. To be honest, I don't mind my washing being hung up out of sight. That's fine. But yeah, even down to sheds and polytunnels, and yeah, making sure that everything is aesthetically nice for the village. And it's like, yeah, I agree with that to a certain extent, but I don't think some sheds on allotment plots that you can't even see from the village unless you stand...
End of the wedge, Birdie. It's the rules. You must uphold the rules. Without rules,
I must uphold the rules. I mean,
this allotment in England.
Yeah, I will. I'm going to put my foot down with this one. Is anyone who has had an allotment, you need a shed. You need a shed.
It's the annoying thing about rules, though, is that you, if you start making exceptions, then it just gives people who are then, people who are going to do the next thing and the next thing, they'll point to that exception and say, like, well, she's breaking the rules. Like, these rules obviously don't matter. Like, you're just penalizing me because you don't like me or whatever. It's the I truly think that's like it's really annoying thing about England, but it is a very English thing. The rules are the rules. And if you let people get away with them, they'll try to get away with everything.
But surely you could make the sheds look aesthetic, right? They don't have to be chunks.
But how you can't write a rule about that, because it's too.
Well,
you
can. You can. This is the grey area, Poe, and this is where I'm winning. I have to admit, is because there are, within different committees, and especially allotments, is the allotment committee can actually set. Well, we do set our own rules regarding the allotments that we have control of. So if we had planning permission for the sheds from Cornwall Council, Cornwall Farms, and the Area of Natural Beauty, we can then work alongside them and say, okay, so you're not allowed to build it above a certain size, you can't paint it a ridiculous color, and all those sorts of things. So that's where we're trying to go with this, is trying to work alongside these bigger groups who have the power at the end of the day. So what we want to do is obviously please them, but do what we can in terms of giving what the people want. So
You know what you should
we
do?
kind of have to work with them in a way that works for us as well.
You should paint your shed in like the intersectional rainbow colors, and say that it's like an LGBT pride monument, and they'll never take it down. They'll never be able to take it down.
Unbelievable. I mean, I will give you a bit of intel on the village that I live in. There has not been any sorts of those flags here since we moved in. Over 2 years, I've not seen a single one of those flags in this village.
Not even the classic rainbow flag.
Nope.
What about the NHS rainbow?
No.
You know, people put them in the windows. They didn't do that.
No.
Well, I'm moving tomorrow.
I feel like everyone now is like, where does she live? I'm going there. I've just had an interesting comment from Grindstone. I don't have my, hold on, let me put my eyes on. Show my age now. Have you thought about organising community events with neighbouring villages, assuming they have communities of their own? Yes. This is something else you can do as well, talking about a community thing. I mean, both with the Roby Trust and the allotments. So we'll start with the allotments. We live on a peninsula. So there are neighbouring villages and we do things together. So there is an autumn show that goes on. They had their 92nd one last year, so it'll be the 93rd this year. So that's something that all the villages get involved in, but it is held in this village. There's also a country show that goes on. So there's all sorts that goes on with neighbouring villages. We have to stick together around here. We're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Well, we are and we aren't. In terms of the Roby Trust, because it's in the town, we do local events as far as sort of the neighbouring villages, the neighbouring towns. We will go as far as the nearest sort of city, again, without saying too much. People know where the Roby Trust is, and most people know where it is anyway. But we do go to a lot of local events, and people now invite us to go to local events to get involved in village fetes and fun days, 1940s weekends that we do with some of our older engines. So yeah, we do already kind of do that. We already do community events, which again kind of helps us stand with, well, if they've got it, you can't really say no to us, sort of thing. So that's another way of gaining stance if you need it. I've got people just commenting now, wondering where this village is, which is quite funny. You're never gonna know. Where does Birdie live? I live in Trumpton. We discussed this ages ago. I live in Trumpton. I grew up in Trumpton. Now I live in a different Trumpton. I
thought I lived in Trumpton, but we've still got we still get a rainbow flag for Pride Month. So obviously not. There are still greater heights of.
Yeah, I mean, unless we go into town, I will not clue on that it's any sort of Pride Month or anything like that, because I don't have any recollection of it. It just doesn't. We're too busy doing other things down here to pay any attention to what's going on. It's not even mentioned down here. It's not. We don't seclude anyone. We just don't make a point of anything. We just carry on with our daily lives. We live in the countryside. We've got more important things to be worrying about than waving flags.
You know what? Speaking of flags, I forgot to mention when I was shilling that we randomly had Ed Dutton, the jolly heretic. You may have seen me post. He was here in this seat last weekend.
That confused me. I have to admit.
Yeah, so he was filming for his channel. I didn't film anything for my channel. I was just showing him around one of the nearby towns where I grew up, because it has some historical significance, and many of the American settlers, the original pilgrims, were from the East Anglia province of England. That a lot of them came from the church that used to be my church. So I showed him the church. He saw the town, and we showed him we brought him here to the village, And on the flagpole, they were changing over the flag from, I don't know what the flag is, like a dark blue with some kind of symbol on. We were discussing what we thought it was. But they were changing that flag for the Ukraine flag that has become standard. So for it's like I want that job. Like in terms of like local power, I don't want to be a councillor. I don't want to be, I don't want to have any real power. I want to be the person who decides what flag goes up the flagpole. I'll do the job. I'll put the flag up there myself. I'll keep the flags in my house. See, I don't care what I have to do. I want to have that job.
You all need to come down here because Alex decided. So the old washing line I mentioned earlier, Alex turned that into a flagpole, and we are the same height as the church tower. So we're on the top of the hill, and then it kind of goes down and then back up to the church. So we're the same height. So even though you can't see our house from ages because we're kind of tucked behind a lot of other things, trees being we're hidden away in a corner, you can see a flag if it's raised high enough. So we have put some flags up ourselves before, mainly just the British flag and that.
So
I
you
think
can have a flag, you just can't have a washing line.
Yeah, I can put a flag up, but I think that's the only thing I want to be waving out the front of my house, to be honest, Poe. I'm not going to lie. we do tend to get attacked by tourists in high season, so that's the only downside of living in Trumpton is tourists do make a point of coming up your driveway, which is very annoying. I would say it's a compliment, but it gets to a point. It gets to a point where I don't want them to see my washing. So we've only got a few minutes left. So is there anything you ladies want to add, shill, etc., before we disappear for another 2 weeks? Less than 2 weeks.
If Shieldbane doesn't have anything, I did forget to mention earlier that I'm going to Swindon to meet some people from the island of the Lotus Eaters. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. But I'm going to be on Brokenomics I pitched Dan Tubb, winner of Whom Would You Wed 2023.
He never lets me go.
I was thinking about giving him an award. I had this idea to like kind of engrave a medal or something, but then I thought it would just be too embarrassing to give it to him.
Yeah, I think he shills it enough as it is, Poe. I don't think we need to.
Okay. I'll just forget that it exists. So I pitched him this idea of talking about the economics of childcare for modern parenting. The government keep changing exactly what they are offering in terms of women going back to work and paying for childcare, child benefit. And I wanted to just I made an Excel spreadsheet with multiple sheets of tables going into when your child is this age, what are the things you're entitled to, how much will childcare cost, and really just breaking down the costs of having a child. Predominantly, if you go back to work, the childcare costs completely dwarf any other expenses that children sort of accrue. So I wanted to go into that and talk about a few other things what people the kind of standard of living people expect their kids. People just take for given that you need to own a house and to have a certain number of bedrooms. You need to have a car and a pram. Talking about if you had to choose between these things and having a child or having another child, what are the kind of trade-offs that you might have to make in order to make this financially viable on an average UK salary? So I've got all kinds of statistics. I've done proper research because it's an economics podcast. I really wanted to come equipped with the numbers. So I'm really looking forward to talking to him on Monday, and look out for that on that podcast.
Brilliant. That sounds really interesting, actually. Shieldbane, anything from yourself?
I just want people to check out the magazine.
Absolutely. So obviously Poe's channel, if you don't know her already, which I'm sure you all do. We know Poe. Yours is linked down below, and Shield Maiden. I believe I've linked Corn Crate magazine and yourself down below as well. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for coming with us for our first Wamen Hour reboot. I can call it a reboot. It's sort of a reboot. We're back. I'm hoping people will follow along, and of course on a new channel. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe, because we want to build our Wamen Hour crew back up again, because we had quite the viewing before we all got very busy. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Birdie.